So if you were out to look at the perfect situation for a hurricane or tropical cyclone to form and be sustained, you would want the waters, those ocean waters or the Gulf waters, as warm as possible, because what a hurricane is counting on is liquid water vaporizing, and then that vapor water recondensing within those clouds. And during condensation, when water goes from a vapor to a liquid, condensation, heat is released. So basically, you got to have your warm water in order to get all that energy aloft that we call a weather system, a hurricane. The other thing is that you need a little bit of spin, okay? And the spin actually comes from the Coriolis force or Coriolis deflection we talked about earlier. And the Coriolis force comes from the Earth spinning on its axis of rotation. The other thing about the Coriolis force that we said is at the equator, it's basically nil. There's no deflection at the equator, but the Coriolis force is most exaggerated at the poles. So for this reason, even though near the equator, near the intertropical convergence zone, it's nice and warm and toasty, you don't have enough spin to go ahead and sustain your weather system we call a tropical cyclone. So it has to be, about more than 5 degrees beyond the equator in order to get the sufficient spin. The other thing that's kind of related to warm water is that the atmosphere needs to be sufficiently unstable. So that's why it's not favored, the formation is not favored on the western sides of the continents. So I'm going to kind of talk you through the beginnings of actually focusing on the hurricanes that occur in our Atlantic Ocean basin. And so meteorologists actually look clear over here off of the continent Africa, off the western coast of Africa. And I don't know if you can see it, but these are just individual thunderstorm cells. And that blue thing there is actually the easterly trade winds that come off that west coast of Africa. So it starts out as actually a tropical disturbance, riding those easterly waves towards North America. And then if it picks up its intensity, or if they become kind of organized from a tropical disturbance, it can become what we call a tropical depression. And again, meteorologists are kind of watching them ride those easterly waves towards our coast for these Atlantic hurricanes anyway. Let's see, what was I going to say? Oh yeah, one of the things I wanted to mention is that actually now, within the last year or so, they are actually adding satellites, geostationary satellites that can track these ocean basins and kind of look for the formation and intensification of these weather systems. Well, if the wind is going fast enough, okay, now it has a central low, okay, if the wind is at least 39 miles per hour, then your depression is upgraded to a storm. And this is an important point in the life of a hurricane, because when the weather system is a tropical storm, not quite a hurricane, it gets named. And so I have a slide coming up to kind of give you the criteria, which is kind of fun for naming tropical storms, not quite tropical hurricanes. Not quite hurricanes. If the wind is at least 75 miles per hour, okay, or greater, then what happens is it is upgraded from a tropical storm. In our neck of the woods, we would then call it a hurricane. Other folks would call it typhoons. Other folks would call it cyclones, okay? But it is officially a tropical cyclone is upgraded. So what you're looking at here is, though you can see the higher number, and it kind of peaks about, looks like about maybe mid-September. The higher number represents the hurricanes, tropical cyclones, and tropical storms, and the lower curve represents how many of those then go on to form full-fledged tropical cyclones or hurricanes. It's the red one. So I have 6 bullets here to kind of highlight how do we name these storms. How do we name them now anyway? Each ocean basin has its own set of names, right? Let's see, the second one there is, they're alphabetical. They used to be all female names, and now they're alphabetical, alternating female, male, female, male. And there are some letters of the alphabet that are hard to come up with names, so Q, U, X, Y, and Z are deleted from the list. And there have been some seasons, actually, in '06 with Hurricane Katrina, there were more than 21 storms, tropical storms. Remember, that's the point at which these weather systems get named. And then they might even, tropical storm can advance, become more intense to a hurricane. But so what happens if you run out of letters of the alphabet, then you go on to the Greek alphabet. So I'm going to show you a list of names. And actually, there are 6 lists for each ocean basin, and the lists are rotated. So I'll kind of show you what that looks like. And if there is a notorious hurricane, such as Hurricane Katrina, then that name Katrina is removed from that particular list and replaced by another K. So that name is retired. So here we go. Can you see that list? And actually, this is for the, it says Atlantic, Gulf of Mexico, and the Caribbean Sea area. The first storm in 11 was called Arlene, 2011, and then Brett, and then Cindy, and then Dawn, etc. Of course, we are in the year 2013 now, so you can, and I've kind of lost track of what's going on with regard to hurricanes, but season's pretty young so far. You can see what they'll be named. Okay, in 2014, you can see what they'll be named. Okay, 2015, 2016. And then just to kind of show you how that would work, here then in 2017, we'll go back to this first list. And then 2018, we'll go on to this next list. See how that goes? I just think that's pretty neat. And there are, again, this is just for one ocean basin.